Alright, so Delta Force. Despite the cringy name and the same Chinese company that was behind Call of Duty Mobile, the game is nothing if not solid. But it's also not exactly trying to innovate much of anything. I've heard people describe it as Call of Duty mixed with Battlefield, and I definitely see that. It's more like COD when it comes to gunplay and movement, but it's set with Battlefield rules. There's been a ton of new games in many FPS genres that have been pulling their weight lately. Valorant, the finals, even Overwatch has gone free to play, whether people have decided to like that game or not. The main game mode is similar to Rush in Battlefield 4. I'm sure there's better comparisons out there, but I honestly just love that game mode and no one plays it, so let me have this one. So, how is it? Well, let's do a little pros and cons list. First off, it's free, obviously. So, getting people to play it with you takes a lot less convincing and you don't have to buy it for your friends. Next, the maps are fantastic. One starts you off slamming boats onto the beach and taking on the enemy head first, and ends with you reverse ziplining up a secret mountain base and fighting in close tunnels. The variations between different parts of the map alone are just staggering. With all of that map and all the players on it, the game runs really well still. It's never stuttered on me except when respawning, and I almost never drop frames. The guns are real actual firearms with mostly actual names. I ran a Scar H most of the time, and it was a Scar chambered in .308 with 20 round standard mags. It's just simple. In the same bullet point, I'll add that the bullets are closer to the real thing. You don't have to lead your shots when you're only 50 yards away. And sniping feels pretty decent, but I was never too great at that anyway. As I said before, I love the game mode and the player count. They didn't try to max out players just to pump numbers, and the objectives feel more substantial than Battlefield Conquest points. The animations are clean, and despite the very reasonable file size, the textures and graphics are pretty praiseworthy. That being said, there are some cons. Vehicles seem to be pretty scarce. I'm not really a big fan of using them myself, but I enjoy seeing and interacting with them on the battlefield. I played the anti-tank class most of the time, and the amount of vehicle kills I was even able to attempt was confusingly low. Speaking of classes, for some reason they decided to continue with Battlefield 2042's weird hero-based system instead of classes. Listen, I don't really personally mind characters, even a tactical game like Rainbow Six Siege has them, and I have thousands of hours on that game. But whereas Siege has 50 operators and 10 players, games like this flip that ratio. So all I see is a bunch of clones running around like Disney has finally just completely given up on the Star Wars plot. It feels completely out of place, and yeah, they're probably going to add a bunch of skins to distinguish people a bit more, but the point is still going to stand. You may notice I haven't talked about the Tarkov mode at all. Well, now we're in the cons, so I can talk about it a bit more. This mode is honestly just lackluster to me. That being said, lots of people seem to enjoy it, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, as always. The only extraction shooter I really enjoy has been Hunt Showdown, and this game just feels like if Tarkov was super simplified. If that sentence was something you're into, I absolutely recommend checking it out. But along with that mode are lots of AI soldiers that pose basically no threat or reason to kill, and these weird boss enemies that look drag and dropped from the Division. In both game modes you have your hero's abilities, which is nice that they have options, but 4 abilities per person is a bit much to keep up with. I have no idea how they're going to do this on a controller. I use a keypad, and I have just decided that whatever this ability is just isn't worth it. And it shows in the ability design too. My anti-tank man has a rocket launcher and another ability with a second secret rocket launcher as a treat. The medic appropriately has a smoke grenade and a better smoke grenade.
Whoever's throwing those smokes sucks.
Maybe I'll come to love the variety at my fingers, but for now it just feels clunky to have so many buttons when you already have a standard shooter loadout. And finally, and everyone agrees with me on this, the worst thing about this game, by far, is that you can't vault over deployable barriers. Why would you do that? I have no idea how this ability was designed with such a massive downside. If I'm using it to take cover and move up, I need to be able to go over it sometimes. If I'm in a corner, then I have to break it just to get out. This game is unplayable. I'm going back to Siege. Just hopping over an obvious obstacle really clears your head. As always, thanks for watching. If I did anything wrong, let me know. Love you guys.